All right, we are back with a relatively interesting series of deck profiles. We're going to be looking at an ABC deck from Sydney, Australia that ended up bubbling. Still looking for more information on that event, by the way. If you guys have deck lists and things that you want to share from it, please send them on over. I would absolutely love to cover more of these events, get more of this information out, but I can only do so if information is shared. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at a True Draco list from an LLDS qualifier. I believe stage 2, which is the good one where you can start winning actual good stuff, which is awesome to see that this deck actually did well. So I'm excited to be talking about this. Now, this True Draco list is pretty spicy because we've started going towards there can only be one. Now, previous iterations of this deck were playing Gozens and Rivalries, but most of the decks now are solidly they'll go on one type and they'll smile at you and be like, oh, what you gonna do, what you gonna do. Now that people are starting to actually learn that there can only be one is actually just the card that people want in their deck. Like, as a Sky Striker player, I love this card. This card against Thunder Dragons is crazy. Against Sky Striker, it's inconvenient. Against Altergeist, the card's a blowout. Like, it was a matter of time until they made something crazy good like this, and it needed to do what it does. So I think True Draco going towards this is fantastic. Now, the extra deck here is more spicy than I think people kind of realize. You're not playing Monarch's Erupt anymore, so you can play your extra deck like you actually would. So we get access to making Friezadon, 2 level 5s. The thing we slap that into is Crystal Zero Lancer. So you can also exceed some of this card by using a rank 5 Water Xyz monster control as Xyz material. This card will gain 500 attack for each Xyz material attached to it. And if this face-up card on the field be destroyed, you get to detach an Xyz material from this guy instead. And then once per turn you detach an Xyz material from this card, all face-up monsters your opponent controls will have their effects negated until the end of the turn. So who doesn't love making a relatively large monster that just inconveniences your opponent? Like, that's what we're here for, essentially. So having access to the extra deck in True Draco, what a fucking time to be alive. So let's dig on into this. So we have one copy of Dynamite. No, nothing to really talk about here. Now, we're playing triple Ignis and triple Majesty. I think because he is playing the extra deck version of this deck, that we are looking to play more options of the monsters. I know some builds were playing only 5. Some builds just like to play 2 Majesty Maid and 2 Ignis. I don't think that's the way to go. I think that that's kind of bad, and you're putting too much of a hindrance on the deck. So I think maximizing on this to make sure you can overlay is fine. Now, we have triple copies of Card Demise. I mean, this is the heart and soul of the deck. You can't really take that away from this. Triple copies of Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix. Yep, staple. Triple copies of Dragonic Diagram. Only 1 copy of Desires. I can understand this because you don't want to, I guess, overtax your deck. If you draw Desires with Desires, you can afford to go 1 Desires for the whole game, and I think you're fine. If you do too many Desires, you run into problems. So 1 is absolutely fine in this. Triple copies of Duality. Nothing too much needed there. 2 copies of Terraforming, triple copies of Heritage, and 1 copy of Upstart Goblin. Traps, we have triple Gozen. Obviously, the attribute type is going to be more effective than, types. So, only 1 copy of Rivalry, 1 copy of Skill Drain, triple copies of There Can Only Be One, triple copies of Apocalypse, 1 copy of Return, and 2 copies of Waterfall. Actually, Waterfall is crazy. Getting to Mulligan and just get back more cards. This card is a lot better than I think people give it credit for. Now, the extra deck. Ooh. So for 2 level 5s, we get to potentially target 2 set cards in the field and destroy them. Absolutely value. We get 1 copy of Maganeer. I mean, getting the ability to target 1 card on the field and destroy it? Sure. Why not? Of course, Volcasaurus, standard. Volcasaurus plus Gaia can massively end a game. I mean, you can pop off of whatever you want, deal damage, and then go into Gaia for the burst. Absolutely fine. 2 copies of Friezadon, and 2 copies of Crystal Zero Lancer. I'm also going to say kind of standard. 1 copy of Durandal, just for when you want to get cheeky. 1 copy of Armades, the old standard destruction effect. Now, Vermilion, Scrap Dragon, Scarlight, Biels, and Baxia are just kind of filler. I mean, you can bring in cherries if you really want to. If you were to change this deck, that's an option that you have. I'm not for it, but you have access to it. Side deck, we have triple Shared Ride, 2 Swords of Concealing Light, triple Imperial Iron Wall, 1 copy of... yeah, 1 Imperial Order, 2 copies of Rivalry, 1 Solemn Judgment, triple Wabaku. This is interesting. I guess this might have been a tech slot to make sure that you can't get OTK'd, make sure that, hey, your opponent disrupts your game plan, you have a backup. I guess that's fine. I'm not a super big fan of this, but I get what he was playing it for with the intent to play it, just to try to get your opponent to bait into it. Outside of that, this True Draco list, this would be very similar to what I would be playing at this current point in time. I'm not so sure about this, but the power of there can only be one is very, very, very broken. I think a lot of people need to understand that this is a card that True Draco should probably be heading towards, and not allowing your opponent to play the game is fundamentally the only way that True Draco has a chance of winning in today's metagame. It's not a good thing, but progress is still progress for the deck. Now, we got a little bit of love for, that's right, Yugioh ABC deck. Now, this deck is actually taking advantage of the Sky Striker engine. I've talked about this a little bit before. The Sky Striker engine outside of itself can be broken. Now, we're not playing Rays. We're also not toolboxing for very much of anything else. Our sole purpose is to get to the Hornet Drones. Hornet Drones produce a Kagari. Kagari can produce us, you know, Reproticus. Reproticus can produce us Summon Sorceress. You're basically using it as a means to climb the link ladder. And, of course, depending on the timing that you use this, or how your turn's going, it can turn out to be a plus, which is absolutely fine. I mean, you play enough spells in your deck. I almost kind of wish we had more options here for Sky Striker support, but that's fine. Don't want to get too crazy. So let's dig on into this list. So we have triple A Assault Core. No real complaints on the piece ratios, actually. Triple copies of Ash Blossom, triple copies of B, and triple copies of C. I know some of the previous builds were kind of crazy, messing around with their core ratios. I think that shit was fucking crazy. Now, we are playing the 1 copy of the Heavy Mech Support Armor. This is another Union monster. This card is normal summoned. You can target 1 Union monster in your graveyard, special summon it. And then once per turn, you can target 1 machine-type monster you control, equip that target to that, or equip this guy to that, or unequip it, and special summon it. Your opponent cannot target a monster equipped with this card with card effects. Also, equip monster be destroyed by a card effect. This guy will take the blow instead. Very generic support card to kind of help out the Union archetype that's already falling on deaf ears as it is. But 1 copy of Garnet. Getting the additional summon off of Seraph Knight is pretty crazy. We have triple copies of Yugioh Brilliant Fusion, of course. Got to feed into this. Triple copies of Call by the Grave. Hand traps are the reason why this deck has problems when it sleeps. Like, you have to be able to have hard counters to things, and this gives you access to said hard counters. 1 copy of Foolish Barrel. Need to drop a piece. Absolutely. Open this guy. Drop a piece to revive. Triple copies of Instant Fusion. Interesting that his target is Thousand Eyes Restrict and nothing else. Okay. We have 1 copy of Yugioh Monster Reborn, 1 copy of Hornet Drones, and triple copies of Engage, along with 1 Salt Charge, 2 copies of Terraforming, and triple copies of Union Hanger with 1 Upstart, 1 World Legacy Succession. This build is getting crazier and crazier the more that I look at it. I think that this is interesting. Revive Summon Sorcerer? Oh, no, that's a bad idea. Revive Reproticus? Maybe. Revive Phoenix? Okay. Revive Griffin? I guess. Just a very interesting card for this deck. And then, of course, triple copies of Infinite Impermanence. The extra deck here is 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Summon Sorceress, 1 Kagari, 1 copy of Reproticus, 1 copy of Unicorn, 1 copy of Phoenix, 1 copy of Gryffindor. Sending an Impermanence off of this is kind of interesting. I wonder how many times actually, well, I guess putting this out on the field and not allowing your opponent to be able to use effects when this guy is cooling. It's pretty cool, actually. 1 copy of Cerberus, 1 copy of Decode Talker. Still standard Decode Talker plus a double Dragon Buster. Still really cute. Still a play you can do. We have 1 Boral Sword Dragon. We have 1 copy of Thousand Eyes, 1 copy of Seraph Knight, and triple copies of Dragon Turd. Side deck, we have triple copies of Lancia, triple Prankatops, triple Mind Control, triple copies of Twin Twister, and triple copies of Evenly Matched. Wrapping up this list. I can understand why this deck ended up losing on the bubble. It's not that it's bad, not at all, but it's good to see that ABC you're making progress, you're evolving as a deck with the times, and that's what we came here for, right? So guys, please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think about these lists, and well guys, I'm out. Peace. The ride never, well, truly ends. Thank you, patrons. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd be wearing in these videos. I might be a Truffle Shuffle incident all over again. Guys, please also check out VanCole40 for some awesome Vanguard content. Some other interesting stuff you might find up here on the left or in the description as well. Thanks for watching.